Hey guys, welcome to Crypto Mining Insider. Today I want to share my journey with you of how I really got into crypto mining. Like many of you, I started off with a single gaming desktop PC with one graphic card. Once I started doing it, I quickly became addicted. I didn't just jump from having a gaming PC to building mining rigs. I learned how to expand my desktop, and I learned a lot of great ways you can expand your desktop to even get the highest mining out of it. Stick with me, I'm going to show you how I extended my desktop to start mining with multiple graphic cards, as well as some new hardware we just received. Let's get started! So starting with my gaming PC. My gaming PC has one card in it right now. It has an RTX 3070, and it has the appropriate power supply, and it runs great. It's mining Ethereum right now. It's making about 60 mega hash. Even while I'm doing my work throughout the day, I mine, but sometimes I may reduce the overclocks a little bit. It's constantly mining 24 hours a day. And a lot of people may be intimidated because they don't know how do you expand upon that. You don't just go from having a desktop to building a mining rig. So let's take a look. This is an actual mining rig motherboard. This is an ASRock H1110 BTC Pro motherboard. This will let me run 13 graphic cards on it. This is obviously quite different from the motherboard that you would have in your desktop. Yes, it is, because it has the additional PCIe slots and lanes, as well as it's meant to run with a low power chip. Like this is running actually with a Celeron GPU in it. The same PCIe slots, these are PCIe 1X slots, enables me to expand and put that many graphic cards. I have these same PCIe slots open in my desktop computer, and that's how it all started for me. So once I quickly realized that I could just take something like what's known as a GPU riser. A lot of you may already know this. We're just going to start at the beginnings anyway. This is a GPU riser, and this is kind of like really an extension cord for your graphic card. Normally I wouldn't be able to plug 13 graphic cards directly into this motherboard. By having this, it lets me plug in on each one of these slots. I can plug here, and then I have a graphic card. And that's how it works. The only thing I have to do now is just power this graphic card. And I'm going to show you some of the power supply options in a minute. By having these open PCIe slots in my mining motherboard, I have them in my desktop computer too. So I'm going to show you how I take this same graphic card with the GPU riser, and I'm going to plug it right into my motherboard. We're going to power it, and I'm going to have two graphic cards running in just a couple of minutes. So when I first started with my desktop computer, I was mining, and I was happily mining Ethereum. I was using one graphic card, and it was running along great. But then I got the bug. I wanted to really get involved with it more. I didn't have the know-how or the experience so much to build a full mining rig. So before I did that, this was actually my first step. This piece of lumber that I got from the hardware store, I drilled some holes and I mounted a GPU riser on it. And you've even seen this in many of my videos. Basically plugged it in, I plugged my graphic card in it, and it worked great, and it still does work great. I know a lot of people out there, they use everything from wire rack shelves just to expand on either desktop or even sometimes full mining rigs. Then I thought I really evolved, because now I went from one card, then I built a board, of course it has two of these on it. And sure enough, these were running, and they were running right beside my PC, and I was mining. But now I had three graphic cards, and I was really, really happy because I had the one on the motherboard, and plus I had two more of these. So it really wasn't that hard. This past week, I received a gift from a company called Plastics Revolution. They're plasticsrevolution.net. I'll put a link down below if you want to check them out. They were kind enough to send this to me as a gift. I'm pretty impressed with this so far. This is actually a GPU stand. It's much nicer, obviously, a big upgrade from my piece of wood, but it serves the same purpose. One thing I found that set this apart was it actually had a slot to put a server power supply right underneath it. And I've seen a lot of other stands before, but this is pretty new to me that, they thought that well through. And it actually goes in and locks in as well. So this was a place I could put a power supply and even put two graphic cards on top of it. I'm going to connect this to my computer in a minute and show you what it looks like. To connect an additional graphic card onto my desktop gaming computer requires me to either have another open slot on the motherboard where I could fit the whole card in, and then I could use potentially the power in the motherboard. Problem is often this time creates too much heat within a computer. So if you have two graphic cards so close like that, it's usually going to be running very hot. A lot of times the power supply that's included with your gaming PC is only enough to power one graphic card safely. Well, the GPU riser is really the extension cord that allows me to plug into my motherboard, as well as it allows me to put a graphic card on it. And by doing that, it lets me separate where the graphic card is. The same way you could separate things in the house with an electric cord. I would just go to the PCIe lane in my motherboard. I would find the open slot. I would plug it in, and now that's all plugged in on the motherboard end. The only thing left for me to do on this riser is I have to power it. So some risers are powered by PCIe. They'll be using like a 6-pin, which is the only way I ever choose to do it. Some will also have a SATA or a Molex connector. I never use the SATA or Molex connector. They don't carry enough wattage safely, and they're known to be a potential fire hazard. But again, do your own research. I always use the 6-pin PCIe connector when I'm powering my risers. Moving on to the power supplies. I only use ATX standard power supplies within my computer case, or sometimes I'll use them if they're built solid on top of a mining rig. For my extension cards, I always use a server power supply because they're very budget efficient and they're very easy to use when powering a graphic card. This is a Hewlett Packard. It's a platinum power supply. It's 1200 watts normally if it's on 240 volts, but it'll only give me 900 watts if it's plugged into 120 volts. This power supply is normally what they use in industrial or commercial data centers, but they also really work great for my purposes. And I can use them in a home setting as long as I'm not using the full maximum 900 watts of it, because otherwise the fans spin very high and they become noisy and create a lot of heat. The other part of the server power supply is known as a breakout board. So this breakout board is an X16 breakout board. See, it has all these connections here, so it lets me connect up a lot of graphic cards very easy. But it also has a volt and it has an amp meter. I'm going to put a link down below. We get these from Parallel Miner. We're an affiliate with them. Their products are great. I've bought a ton of them. I've had great luck and great response to them. All you do is you connect the breakout board like that to the power supply, and then they send you a bunch of cables. When you buy these power supplies, they'll, depending upon how many, if you say you want it for 3 GPUs or you want it for 8 GPUs, whatever you want, they'll send you that many cables. Have 2 ends on them. One will be a standard 6-pin. One will be sized with a 6+2. Because really those extra 2 wires are really, I believe, run as another ground. So I'll typically start by just connecting a few of these in. 1. I only want to connect the 6-pin entry into it. 2, 3, and 4. Now I would normally be able to just plug right into one of these into the 6-part end into my GPU riser, and I'll be plugging the other ones into the other side of the graphic card. Fortunately, we've evolved past the plank wood with the GPU riser on it, so we're actually going to use this new product I was just sent from Plastics Revolution. This is their GPU stand, and I'm very impressed with it overall. I like the fact that it has the slot right here for me to slide this server power supply right into. Mine came with a fan on it. I don't think they're coming standard with a fan. I think you just have to adapt any 120 millimeter fan on it. They seem really, really good, but they're very attractive to look at. I currently have one single RTX 3080 graphic card in it, and that would be the maximum. So if you have bigger cards, like multi-slot cards, you'd probably only be able to slot 1 card into it. But if you had single slot cards, like small EVGA, like XE3s, or even some of the smaller AMDs, you'd be able to fit 2. But for today, we're just going to put 1 card in it. So I would take my server power supply. It's really nice because they have a bottom tray, and it's kind of really snug. But once it gets in there, softly, there we go. Now the server power supply is clipped in. All I need to do is from the front side, I'll just connect my breakout board. So as you can see, I have the graphic card, I have my power supply and my breakout board, and it's all nicely held in this one nice unit. I have this set up with one single EVGA RTX 3080 Ti card. This is at least a 2-slot card. So given that I'm not able to put a second graphic card, I'm limited to 1 graphic card in this size unit. They may be working on some further units that I see on their website. There's some custom designs coming. But if you have a big card like a 3080, 3080 Ti, or 3090, they may only be able to put 1 GPU in it. It's very, very handy that this is all kind of one complete setup. So let me just start putting my wires in the breakout board. This GPU has 3 8-pins on top, so I need 3. Plus I'm gonna need 1 to power the riser. Those 3. And 1 more is going to be for the riser. And that still leaves a lot in case I ever want to expand it. And I just connect the GPU riser, the USB, into the riser. The only thing left for me to do is I have a Molex that I have for this fan on the back. I have one more in the back of my computer. That's it, I'm all set up now. So my graphic card right now is plugged into the motherboard and I'm powered by a server power supply. Let me plug in the server power supply, make sure all the wiring looks okay, and computer power supply. So the computer is also plugged in. Before I power the computer, I'm gonna wanna put power to the server power supply. This comes on, I see the GPU is on and my wattage and voltmeter is right there. So that's all set. Now, I just have to turn the computer on and that's it. So as long as my BIOS is set, I have above 4G decoding and my motherboard can handle more than one graphic card, as I'm booting into right now and I'm seeing it's booting up okay, we'll be all set. And I'll be able to start mining using 2 graphic cards now on the same computer. Oh, I can actually feel the fan, so that's kind of cool. And I like the green light. A cool part about this is that I can split this over a little bit more. So a lot of times I'll have heat coming out of my computer case. I almost always end up taking the side glass off the computer cases so I can get better ventilation. But it's being able to isolate this even further from the computer gives me a little bit of more flexibility and give better ventilation. So we are successfully mining on 2 graphic cards right now. I am mining on the RTX 3070. It's a full hash rate card. So I'm mining Ethereum, and on this 3080 Ti card, I'm actually doing some spec mining for Ravencoin using the T-Rex miner. And if you want to go over and see my screens, you'll see both miners are up and active. And this gives me a lot of flexibility because although I could be running both of the graphic cards on the same miner to mine a single coin, it gives me the ability to split them up and have different cards mining different coins or algorithms. I really appreciate this new product I received this week from plasticsrevolution.net. Again, I'm going to be putting a link down below if you want to inquire about them. We're not in a partner or affiliate with them, so this is a pretty independent review. I love the fact that they have the built-in slot to handle the Hewlett Packard, the power supply underneath, and it gives it a much cleaner and much nicer appearance, and the ability that you can put any, I think, 120 millimeter fan, I believe it's 120 millimeter, that you want. So you could even have stuff with more RGB up front or even hopefully even a higher airflow. The only drawback to this is that if I'm using large size cards like 3090s or this 3080 Ti, I can't fit a second card in here, or at least maybe I could, but it would be too tight, so I wouldn't have very good ventilation. If you have your larger size cards, you're only going to probably be able to fit one in this model. I see that there's some notation on their website. They may have some more models coming in the future. I look forward to that. But if you probably had your standard single slot card, like a 3070, don't run too hard or too hot, this would probably be great. You'd be able to run both cards in it. I really appreciate having this. Thank you again very, very much. So that's all there is to it. By doing this and having the right configuration in my motherboard setup, I was able to connect a second graphic card. My motherboard is a little funny, so it doesn't want to let me connect 3, and some won't. So you should check before you plan to expand on your motherboard. Make sure it can handle multiple graphic cards. I believe it has to do with the PCI lanes that are available on it. I'm successfully mining right now using 2 graphic cards. So I'm able to double the power I would normally get out of this desktop just doing GPU mining, just by adding a simple server power supply and the magic of having a GPU riser. You see how simple it is to plug it in and get that working. We really appreciate having the opportunity to look at some new hardware today, show you how simple it is for us to connect another second graphic card and expand on our desktop computers to even get more mining running. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please give me a big thumbs up, smash down on that subscribe button if you haven't already. We welcome all your questions and comments. Please put them down below. We'll do our best to answer. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video. Happy mining!